All yours.
All right, good evening and welcome to the December 1st regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. First order of business, Madam Clerk, may I get you to call a roll, please?
Mayor Rilling,
I'm here.
Mr. Abrams,
Here.
Mr. Camacho, Mr. Constant,
Here.
Mr. Gilleret,
Here.
Mr. Casimis,
Here.
Miss Yang.
She's
There you
here.
are.
She's on mute.
There. We have six at roll call. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, any opening remarks this evening in your final Board of Estimate and Tax meeting?
I kind of figured you were going to recognize that. Yes, this is my final BET meeting as your mayor. Now, I don't know if I'll have to be there some other reason, but I just do want to take this moment or this minute to thank you all. Thank you all for the service, being such guardians of the city money. It's a very uh, it's a huge responsibility. I think over the past 12 years, and as long as some of you have been serving, we have done a yeoman's job of trying to keep taxes as low as possible, notwithstanding the reval that we had to go through. But we always acted in the interest of the public good. And I think we made some very good choices, good decisions, whether it be operating budget, capital budget. But I do want to thank each and every one of you for your time and for being willing to take on such a huge responsibility. It's been an honor and a pleasure working with you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your leadership over the last 12 years. You've made incredible progress for the city of Norwalk. Not always an easy task, but you've always risen to the occasion and proud to be a small portion of all of the work that you have led. So
Thank you.
congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Let the
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to echo that. It's been a pleasure working with the mayor for his term. It's my 8 years. And it's been a better place since he's been mayor. And we look forward to the future. Thank you for all your service.
Thank you.
And Ms. Yang, I believe you wanted to make a comment.
Could we just have a round of applause for the mayor?
Here, here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your confidence in us, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate it.
It was an easy
record,
task. That was a no-brainer for all of you.
Let the record also show that Ed Camacho did join the meeting at 6:32 p.m. this evening and his final meeting for the Board of Estimate and Tax as well. So Ed, we thank you for all of your service and wish you well as you move on to new endeavors.
You're muted.
Unfortunately, Ed, you're on mute at the moment. All right, you'll dial back in via phone. With that, I need us to move along in our agenda. The first item of business tonight is approving the minutes from both the special meeting of the Board of Estimate and Tax on November 3rd and the regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation on November 3rd. Can I get somebody to please move that for approval? Thank you, Artie. Any comments, changes, revisions first to the special meeting minutes from November 3rd by anyone?
Yeah, I've got just one very small thing on the at the top on the attendance portion where it says staff. They've just got Irene's name listed twice. So for the minutes taker, if you could correct that to just one listing, please.
Thank you very much. Any other comments on the special meeting minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented and amended by Tom, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Those minutes are approved. Now on to the regular meeting from November 3rd. Any changes, amendments, revisions to those meeting minutes as presented in our packet? Seeing none, all in favor of approving those minutes as presented in our packet, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention. I was not at that part.
Thank you, Artie. Those minutes are approved. All right. Before we get to the transfer agenda for this evening, Ed, again, just wanted to thank you for all of your help, support, and leadership on this board over the last number of years. Your contributions have been too great to mention, and I personally will miss your advice, counsel, and general approach to the way we do things here. So,
I appreciate those comments, and I enjoyed the years, all 12 of them that I've served on the BET, or I think close to 12. And it was really a good opportunity to work with all of you and a few members who are no longer on the board. And Mr. Mayor, I really appreciate your confidence in me, and I think you've done a fantastic job as mayor. I think that's pretty much widely, or if not unanimously held, at least on this board, but certainly around the city. So I thank you for your leadership and for the.
And thank you, Ed, for your willingness to serve. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
and by the way, I want to thank Kendrick and Troy for continuing to serve in the interim and during the transition period while the new administration comes on board. Gentlemen, your role continues to be critically important as we do the work that the city has asked us to do. So thank you for continuing through the transition at a minimum. With that, let's move to the next item on our agenda, which is transfers, which begins, there's only one transfer, but begins on page 11 of our packet tonight. If I can get somebody to move the transfer for discussion and approval.
Moved.
Thank
So
you,
moved.
Artie. Tom, do you want to lead us in this conversation and then turn it over to Diana as needed?
Sure. As you said, Ed, there's only one transfer tonight. This is for the registrar of voters. As we've done in the past, historically, we haven't funded their early voting and the primaries primarily because we don't normally have a heads up on how many primaries they'll have, and this is only the second time through on the early voting, so we didn't have a whole lot of history or trends to give us guidance on how to fund these. So this is the first non-presidential early voting cycle, and we have all the results in, and now we are looking to fund all of the expenses associated with that. Diana did an extensive and detailed explanation on all of the costs and the drivers and the impacts of these, and I will let her take it away from here. Go ahead, Diana.
Thank you so much, Tom. Good evening, BET members, Mr. Mayor. Apologies, this is the first time I'm joining on my city-issued laptop, and I failed to bring the camera device that's attached to my monitor, so I do apologize for that.
No worries.
My name is Diana Palladino Christopher. I am the Registrar of Voters, and I thank you for the opportunity tonight. My counterpart, Stuart Wells, is away on a much deserved vacation, but he may join virtually. I'm not sure, but we are requesting the contingency transfer of approximately 164,000 to support our expanded operational demands of the 2025 election cycle. As you know, Norwalk saw a record voter turnout, our first full municipal cycle with 14 days of early voting and a September 9th primary, which also required 6 days of early voting prior. Redistricting also added some costs, including 2 full city mailings to ensure all voters were aware of any redistricting that took place, and of course, their polling place changes. There was an added polling district. D3 and a total of 12 polling sites citywide, both on September 9th and November 4th. Additionally, Norwalk was selected, lucky us, in the state audit lottery, and 4 sites for that September 9th primary were audited, and we did complete the state's audit requirements with no discrepancies. And then, of course, security, which is our police that we hire during early voting and election day and primary day, played a role as well. Police presence is required throughout all 20 days of early voting, as well as polling locations citywide on both those dates. In today's political climate, we did have a discussion with the mayor's office prior and decided that it was important to fully staff even at City Hall during the early voting dates. And then lastly, the state of Connecticut issued new tabulators statewide. And as a result, we were required to put together new trainings, classes, materials, resources, and of course, all of the staffing that was required to meet those needs of the updates and changes. Fortunately, we met all of our deadlines and we hosted a successful primary and general municipal election for our residents and voters. And I believe everything is documented in that overview that I provided, but I'm certainly here to address any additional questions and offer any detailed breakdown that you might have.
Questions for Diana?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's Troy. Diana, couple of quick questions. I know we had I'm just talking about the general election on November 4th. We had 2 weeks prior early voting period, right?
Correct.
At City Hall only.
Correct.
What percentage of the population voted just curious, for the 2 weeks versus on election day?
So, percentage wise, for early voting, we had about 4,300 people vote. We have a total of 5,600, I'm sorry, 56,000 voters. And then in addition to those 4,300 that came out during the 2 weeks of early voting, we had an additional, I would say it was an additional 15,000 come out and vote on November 4th. Unfortunately, we are mandated by the state. So while as registrars, we feel that 2 full weeks of early voting, especially during a municipal election, is too much, we have no choice. Every municipality in the state is mandated by the legislature, and whatever the decision is by the legislature is what we must abide by. But I don't have that exact percentage in front of me, but those numbers are accurate.
So 4,300 people voted during the 2 week early period versus the 15,000 on election day. Is that what you said?
That is correct.
And is the state reviewing that 2 weeks? Because I just think 2 weeks seems to be. I went in there and it was very
Absolutely.
quiet when I walked in there
Absolutely.
during the early period.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it did not make it on for the legislature. The last go around, we are told by the Secretary of the State that they are very much advocating for a maximum of 10 days. I think, again, the biggest impact obviously is budget. And we're actually fortunate in some ways. We know of some municipalities who literally each day they would post in a registrar's forum that they saw a total of like 5 voters for the entire day. So believe it or not, we were kind of up there in terms of turnout. But yes, for municipal election, it is absolutely a lot, and it's pretty difficult to justify.
Yeah, and I think the convenience is great, but the percentages, if they don't make sense, and maybe less than 2 weeks is good. Mail-in? Do we do mail-in? Did we do mail-in, or is that on pause? Or
So we did a mailing, but only for those affected by redistricting. So we had to do a mailing for the Democratic primary. And so anyone affected that was a registered Democrat that was redistricted received a letter. And then additionally, a mailer went out just before early voting began. I'm sorry, just before the election day, November 4th, and people received notice that they were redistricted.
Oh, I was thinking more, can you still drop your vote off at a drop box in the front there?
Oh, yes. You mean mail-in absentees? Yes,
Yes.
that is correct. Unfortunately, it was not as utilized as in the past, which we obviously attribute to early voting. I believe around 400 applications went out, and of those 400, maybe only about 350 were returned. But that aspect of it is handled by the town clerk's office.
Yeah, I think they made it a little more restrictive since COVID as far as how you could vote that way. And the other thing, I was just
Correct.
looking at on the percentages, most of it is secure. What percentage is security versus staff? Unless I missed that, I don't think you broke out the breakout between all the three major costs.
So let's see. Apologies. So the security system, which is what we refer to as the police, that does make up a strong portion of our budget. It looks like we were around 51,000. And then in terms of wages temporary, we were I want to say around 203,000 for the primary and early voting, as well as the municipal general.
That's the administrative support, 203,000.
So that's going to be your poll workers. That's going to be poll workers that are hired for 6 days um, prior to the primary date. Then that's going to be your poll workers that are hired at the 12 polling locations. And then additionally, it's going to be your poll workers for the 2 weeks of early voting, as well as November 4th at all
And, and,
polling locations.
and the only thing I was questioning is also, I saw somewhere in here about overtime. How does overtime work when if someone's being hired for 6 days or 20, or 2 weeks?
So registrars don't receive overtime. However, our administrative staff and our deputies do receive overtime. So that would likely be part-time and then any core staff salaried employees. So those are going to be our deputies and our administrative staff. Um, I
So is
know,
that anything over 20 hours or something part time?
no, so those core 6 staff members are full-time. And so it would be anything over 37 and a half.
I was just wondering why we had such a big overtime number.
So a lot of it to consider is training. So we have to train poll workers typically about a month and a half prior. And those trainings typically take place in the evenings, as well as a Saturday. And each training is typically between 2 to 3 hours, depending on the job role. And there are various job roles, to make an election go, from a checker position to a ballot clerk to a moderator, and an assistant moderator. So all of those positions we do have to staff. And so we have to host trainings for each of those positions. And we typically try to only have the individuals who will be hired to attend the trainings, but we always have to account for people, being sick. And now with early voting, of course, it's not just one day of coverage to be concerned with, but it's, between 6 and 14 days. So we're training a lot of people. And additionally, with that, we are delivering election equipment on a Sunday to our polling locations. Most of them are schools. So we are required to bring them to the locations when school is not in session. And we typically do that on Sundays. So that's where you're seeing a lot of that overtime.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Any other questions? Ms. Yang?
Um, I think I need a little help in interpreting where the 163.5 is coming from. So if I read Tom's spreadsheet correctly, we had an overage in 2025 of 323,500, which is essentially being carried over to 2026. We came in under budget for this election year by 140,000. So the overage from 2025 is the 163.5. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the way that I'm seeing it, but I defer to Tom as he helped provide me with that 163 number. So I do want to make sure that I'm correct on that.
Yeah, so Ann, for 2026, that 141, that is for the full year to date. So we still have to pay salaries for another 7 months to get us to June 30th of next year. So right now, the 163, the what we're moving over, those four accounts were already over budget for the full year. So in overtime, we're already over by 5,000. Temporary wages were already over by 100,000, and so on and so forth, including security at 50,000. So the transfers that we're doing right now from contingency are just to cover the overruns to date. And so the balance, $140,000, it's still under budget for the full year, will be used to pay salaries. And if anything else comes up, there's a good chance we'll be back here asking for more contingency money
So,
before the end of the year.
so did we cover the overage of the 323,500 from last year's contingency budget?
Yeah. So last year we started out at 618. We went to contingency several times, including for a total of 338,000. So our revised budget was 942,000, and we spent 933. So so we ended up coming in about $8,000 under the revised budget. So that's all we had left over was $8,000 from last year.
But the 323,500 was fully covered in 2025 fiscal year numbers, correct?
It was covered out of contingency
Yeah.
in
Okay,
the
so
last year.
that was last year's business and has nothing to do with what we're looking at this year.
Correct. Yeah, so we used contingency last year to cover that. Now, a large part of that was the presidential early voting.
So if our budget is 660 and the actuals have been 519, aren't we budgeted for the 660? And why do we need to take money out of contingency?
We will go, if we do nothing, we will go way over the 660. If we just pay their regular salaries for the next 7 months and nothing else happens, we will go over the 660 by at least 164,000.
Okay, and so what are those salaries since we've already covered the big election, which is in November.
Right.
So what is it that needs to be covered between now and the end of 2026 fiscal year that is registrar related expenses?
So it's assuming no more primaries or anything else, it's just the regular. How many people in your area, Diana? Full timers? 8?
So we have 6 core staff members, and
Okay.
actually, one of our staff members retired as of Wednesday. She was with us for 40 years, actually. So that position currently is vacant, and likely, could be vacant for a few months.
And just the regular day-to-day operations of the registrar's office for the next 7 months, December plus the next 6 months of June 2026, those salaries have to be paid. So that's what we'll
The budget number we should be looking at is 800.
close to it. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what do the 6 people do between now and the end of this fiscal year? Given that the big issue of the is over.
I think it's Kendra.
May I interject for a second because those positions were budgeted were those positions were budgeted for, and so that discussion was already had when we agreed to the proposed budget, or to the proposed budget that was eventually sent to the Common Council and approved. All those discussions were had. So we're just basically replacing money that were already budgeted to cover for the expenses that occurred in the November election that had not been budgeted for. Isn't that what we're doing now?
Yes.
That is what we're doing, Ed, but I think Anne's asking a simple question just for clarity,
Sure.
which deserves an answer, which is, what is the department general do between now and
I'm using it for Zoom.
not being difficult, but just what are their roles and responsibilities between now and the end of the fiscal year?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things that we do is we are required to do a canvas. So we do an annual canvas of voters annually. And that just helps us reconcile voter rolls, make sure that all of our information is fully up to date, that we're processing any voter registration cards, party changes, address changes, deaths, felonies. We're a big municipality, so there is a lot of that comes through on a day-to-day basis. We're removing people, updating people based on people moving into the city, moving out of the city. So we obviously have to handle DMV transactions, our election day, registration backlog. We have a lot of people that participate in same day voter registration. We conduct that annual canvas that I had mentioned. And then in addition, we are required by the state and mandated to continue our training. We have the new total vote system that is coming into play on January 22nd. For the last several decades, we've been using the centralized voting system through the state of Connecticut. That will be no longer as of January 16th. And therefore, we will have to undergo training and then, of course, train our assistant registrars and core staff in that. We attend the ROVAC conferences, the Secretary of State trainings. We engage with vendor trainings. We update internal procedures, create training material for upcoming elections. And, of course, we go through, all of the redistricting impacts, community outreach, technology and system work, maintenance. We review document disposals, very important for us to stay, up to date with the proper, internal office operations required by the state of Connecticut. Gosh, I could probably go on
No, I
for
think we get the
forever.
sense, Diana. There's a significant amount of work that the department has to deal with between now and the end of the fiscal year, which will burn through the $140,000, leaving us with the $163,000 overage that you're looking to fund out of contingency. And any other questions related to that?
Yeah, I do, which is I would like to suggest that as we look at the budget for next year, that perhaps there is some way that some things we could let retirements happen, and maybe there are some ways we can do things with consultants, like if you're doing a voter survey or something.
And that's fine, Ann. And I think as part of the annual budgeting process, we can look at that. I just would like to keep us focused on the request at hand, which is the 163.5 out of contingency to fund expense that's already incurred.
Okay. And my other comment relative to the voting is I thought a lot of the staff at the voting facilities it used to be volunteer, like from the League of Women Voters. And every time that I've gone into vote, which I do every year, there aren't a lot of people voting, but there's a lot of staff. So, in the vein of trying to save money for the city, is it possible that we don't need to have that much staffing? And is there a way that we can reduce what this 163 request is for the next 7 months so that we don't have to dig into our contingency of $160,000 for an event that has the main event, which has primarily passed, which is a little different than funding security directly at schools.
Sure.
And then
So
again,
I
I think
think
that's fair. I think that's fair. And again, something that as we look at FY27 budgeting is a legitimate ask, and we can reflect that. These are expenses that have been incurred already for this year, and this is simply the ask that's in front of us today. So, Anne, I understand the forward-looking requests. They're in the minutes. We should consider them as part of the FY27 budgeting process, but we have a very simple request in front of us today for expense that has already been incurred.
Sure. And if I may just say, I understand and respect your points.
Is still to be incurred. This is not all incurred yet. Okay. There's still 163,000 that you're saying is to be incurred. So
Well,
is there
what we're doing, Anne, is we're replacing money that has already been incurred, charges, monies that have already been paid out. We already budgeted the the registrar's office for the year. That is what we're trying to do again, because monies that have been budgeted for the year were used for something else.
Right. Very simply, there will be an overrun of $163,500 on the approved budget for the registrar voter. We need to approve that out of contingency. Yes, there is still $140,000 of unincurred expense, which will be incurred through the regular roles that the staff has to play between now and the end of the fiscal year. So we can either approve this now, given that expenses occurred, or we approve it at the end of the year. The bottom line is the department will be over budget as planned, as noted when we built contingency because of the unknowns about how early voting and those things would impact.
You mean they were under budgeted, under budgeted?
Under budgeted. Thank you. Thank you, Troy.
So Tom, at the end of the day, the 660 that was budgeted, if you added everything in, and it's going to be close to almost an election year. Then it's going to be close to 800,000. Is that what the number should at the end of the day be? 850,000.
Uh,
If you add in everything we're talking about tonight.
yeah. So 760. Yeah, 820, 830.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So with
At
that, I'm
least
going
we
to
have
call.
a baseline. At least we have a baseline now for this new
Yes,
program.
we have one presidential early voting. Now we have one municipal early voting.
Yep.
So at least now we have some history and some trends that we can, sort of benchmark against going forward in the budget process.
Yep. Artie, you were going to make a comment or had a question?
I just have a quick question. Is it typical for the police expense to come out of your budget and not their budget since it's a city function?
it is, they are traditionally hired by the registrar's office. Why that is, I can't answer. But as far as I can see back, that has been paid out of our budget and not city budget.
Okay.
And that's consistent with other events throughout the
is?
city. Think about the fireworks down at Calf Pasture. Ken Hughes pays for that. That gets allocated back to him, and
Okay.
other events like that throughout the city. So
Thanks.
that's consistent approach.
I personally like Ed's suggestion of that we revisit this towards the end of the year.
It's been brought forward at this point in time. If we're going to call for a vote, you can certainly vote no, at which point we would revisit it. but it's been brought to the table at this point in time for vote. I'm going to ask, therefore, for a vote. All in favor of approving the funding out of contingency can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose. And
Thank you, Ms. Yang.
it is not relative to the actual dollar amount, it's to the timing. So let's see, maybe the department can save some money between now and the end of the year.
So noted, at which point it would come back to the general fund anyway. All right. Any abstentions on this one? The transfer is approved. Your comments are noted, Ms. Yang, for certain. All right. I believe, Tom, the only other agenda item for this evening is the contingency tracker.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the fiscal 26 contingency report didn't make it in, but the 25 one did. But that is complete now, reflective of the retro wages that we paid out last month, and we finished up at $1.7 million. I do have the contingency numbers, so let me just run through those real quick for you. We started the year at 1.3 million. After last month's police overtime contingency request of 500,000, the revised budget, I'm sorry, the actuals, I'm sorry, the revised amount remaining is now $738,000. And now you take out the 164 that we just approved, that brings us down to 574,000 for the balance of the year.
Thank you very much. I do not believe there are any other verbal reports for this evening. In our package are the usual pieces of information related to Oak Hill's financials, the tax collector's narrative, etc. Therefore, any final questions or comments before I move to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I think it appropriate that I move to adjourn this evening.
Congratulations again, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Wish you the best of luck. All in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you
Thank you.
again for everything
Thank you,
you've done
everyone.
for the city,
Happy
Mr. Mayor.
holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, all.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.